Ostracism. Once a year, in ancient Athenian democracy, citizens had a choice to nominate and vote to expel people from their beloved city-state for 10 years. The initial idea was to create a democratic system to rid folks who threatened their democracy, but it quickly became a tool used to eliminate those with political differences. In essence, ostracism was a political weapon used to socially shun someone, and enemies would perform the art of the smear, which would spread through the masses like wildfire, becoming a campaign tool to rid challengers. The most notable was, of course, Socrates, who questioned and challenged groupthink, and ultimately he was sentenced to death after a controversial trial. But immediately Athenians regretted this system, as they realized what the ultimate cost was on society. But today, ostracism is one of the most effective tools the capitalist establishment uses to silence and push out dissent, to weaken the masses and create chaos and infighting. Few have been able to break through the establishment's handle of power and control. The Me Too movement, which has its own versions of ostracism in cancel culture, the Me Too movement unveiled the sick underbelly of the establishment, the lengths Hollywood and the political industrial complex will go to cover up the dangerous misogynistic system and silence, erase, and punish those who push back, speak out, or are just silent victims. But journalist Ronan Farrow became the unlikely vehicle that broke through the system. Farrow worked with several respected and award-winning journalists like Jane Meyer to break the Weinstein story, which ripped back the curtain on the establishment. And now, after a couple of years, the establishment is attempting to ostracize Ronan Farrow. Ronan Farrow, of course, the child of Hollywood society, actress Mia Farrow, and the very disturbed director Woody Allen. Ronan Farrow, who grew up privileged with the best schooling, graduating college at 15, and subsequently Yale Law School, and practicing human rights law. Before the age of 25, he had worked as an ambassador to the UN for the House Committee on Foreign Affairs and was recruited by the famed Richard Holbrooke to work on human rights in the Obama administration, focusing on civil society in Pakistan and Afghanistan. And then Secretary Hillary Clinton appointed him as a special advisor focusing on youth revolution, the revolutions of the Arab Spring. This was all before he was 25 years old. And then, of course, he shifted to journalism, which culminated in his recent Pulitzer Prize in 2018 for uncovering the Weinstein story. By all means, as a man who grew up around power, his path was welcoming to his hard work and his ambitions. And it gave him the space and access to be able to explore the stories many had heard for years about Harvey Weinstein behind the scenes. Until this week, when the New York Times media reporter Ben Smith decided it was time to poke at Ronan Farrow's reporting on Weinstein and Matt Lauer. Keep in mind, Harvey Weinstein has already been tried and convicted in a court of law. There are journalism standards, but then there are legal standards. And Harvey Weinstein is now universally proven to be a sexual predator and rapist. So why, after these convictions, would the establishment media decide it was time to publicly question Farrow's reporting, which uncovered the vast conspiracy of hiding Weinstein's assaults as long as he kept bringing in the money? Why? Could it be that the well-paid consultants who are representing Joe Biden want to poke holes in the narrative around believing women? Remember, the same PR consultants that work with Joe Biden represented Harvey Weinstein. The same PR consultants who pitch the media make money off of the advertisements that go on cable news. The same PR consultants who work with Hollywood agencies. The same agencies who listened to Weinstein and ended the careers of so many women who were his victims. The establishment is angered that Ronan Farrow, in his book Catch and Kill, exposed the lengths that the NBC executives went to cover up or look the other way when Matt Lauer took advantage of women. I want to be very clear. The establishment wants to make money. They want to protect their power. They want to protect their industries and bottom line, and they will stop at nothing to do so. There are no standards. They use standards as a rhetorical messaging tactic against enemies, but ultimately will even ostracize their own if their own questions or exposes them to violate these standards. The left knows this. We remember the McCarthy hearings and the blacklist. Despite what Ben Smith tries to argue in the New York Times, it is verified that NBC attempted to quash Ronan Farrow's reporting, exposing their star, Matt Lauer's behaviors. It is verified that Harvey Weinstein sexually assaulted dozens of women. Ben Smith tries to argue that Farrow's reporting style didn't meet his standards as a media critic, giving air to Matt Lauer's criticisms of Farrow's reporting. With all due respect, perhaps Ben Smith should focus more on the media infrastructure, punishing reporters for doing their work and not providing resources to cover big stories. But would we expect that from Ben Smith? Or is he just going to focus on clickbaity articles? You know, Ben Smith from BuzzFeed. Movement leaders, whistleblowers, journalists, victims, candidates, they're often erased, devalued, smeared, and ostracized so that the establishment can maintain their power and cover up their own problems. They will distract the public away from the real story, often exposing the abuses of money and power by challenging the style of the report or the credibility of the person reporting. But that is all a red herring. In court, if court were conducted properly and fairly, none of this would be admissible. Harvey Weinstein built an empire off of exploitation and exercising gross power over women. And many of those women's lives and careers are forever altered and in many cases ruined. Capitalism is the ultimate tool of the patriarchy. I commend all the victims and whistleblowers who have stood up alone against power to expose injustice, against their own reputations. They've hurt their careers. The journalists and the leaders who've been smeared, who've been threatened, whose lives have been uprooted. Keep in mind the next time you hear a reporter or a Twitter account attacking someone who speaks truth to power, ask, what is their goal? What are they trying to get out of it? What is the goal there? We as a movement should always be questioning the voices, challenging the ones speaking up to power. We as a movement must understand their game to sow doubt, erase leaders, and pit us against each other. Because if we don't question, then aren't we all just drinking their hemlock? Thank you for watching The Nomiki Show. You can support us on YouTube by clicking subscribe, like, and sharing to get those alerts. And patrons, well, they make this show run on time. So thanks to all of you who have joined our community already. If you like our content and want more, from special segments to interviews and merch, you can join us for as low as $5 a month on patreon.com/The Nomiki Show. I'm spending all of my iced coffee money on other people's shows because I think this is the time that we have to support our independent media.